Welcome back to Lost Odyssey. We're out. We're out, guys. We're out.
Goody.
It feels so good to be out.
Smell the fresh air. Go on, Joe.
We go from the sewer level to now, I guess, the ice/water level. But regardless, one thing I wanted to ask last part, but I never got the chance to. So yeah, I know that you've told me Brando likes 13, but he's still a good sport about, the critiques about it. How does he feel about the rest of the 13 trilogy?
13-2 is he likes it. It's kind of like on the same level. Like for example, like when it comes to the story, for example, just like everybody, even including Teo, he praises Caius as one of the best Final Fantasy villains. I still don't particularly think Caius is that great. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he's a bad villain necessarily. I just think people tend to overrate him a bit, honestly.
Funny,
but,
that's kind of how I feel about Mephiles. Great design, but overrated villain narratively speaking.
Yeah.
Also, Jova, he likes the soundtrack even more when I do.
So so you're kind of like me with when it comes to Sonic 06. The character that I personally really find overrated is Silver, because Silver is so goddamn stupid in that game. Like I've discussed.
I only don't consider Silver overrated because, I'll be honest, he is definitely a lot more hated than beloved. Not to say he doesn't have his fans, but okay. As
Only for his boss fight, he's hated.
Yeah, I've mentioned before, Sega clearly wanted another Shadow with Silver. The new Hedgehog who was going to be super popular to the point where fans would go gaga over the character and he'd maybe get his own game. As you may recall, that definitely did not happen with Silver.
Watch the remastered version of Unleashed. I have an episode dedicated to it.
Let me put it this way, just to continue explaining to Jova what he asked about. He praises Caius as a great villain. I personally don't think he's all that great, but whatever, I'll concede that point for the sake of moving on. He also talks about how not just Caius, but the entirety of the new characters, specifically Caius, Ewell, and Noel, are the highlights because he admits at the very least that the 13-2 treats the OG cast like crap. So he does admit that. I still think Noel and especially Ewell are bland as shit. I still have no idea why. I still have no idea why I should give a shit if Ewell dies or lives, to be honest, because she has no personality whatsoever.
Because she's the plot catalyst, Pedro, so you're obligated to care about her.
See, it's a bit difficult because remember, Noel's entire motivation in both 13-2 and Lightning Returns is to save Ewell. Remember, that's kind of his whole thing. Alright, I'll continue after this.
What the heck?
I forgot if this is voiced, but
yeah, but that walk cycle. Is he drunk?
I'm getting food fight flashbacks.
Bloody hell.
Bloody hell.
That Christopher Lloyd character.
I wonder. It must be.
Oh.
Where's the train that you were talking about?
Ooh, maybe he found the train where Kaim and Sarah were at.
Please?
We're good asking him.
He went that away. Well, thanks a lot, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I am pretty sure he was not pointing in the direction of the path he just came from, but
These
okay.
two children are very desperate.
I think it's worth a look.
I mean, it's not like we have any better leads, so.
Well, I mean, you're trusting a drunk man, so.
Well, to be fair, I will argue this beats searching aimlessly at random. Still,
Dire times ahead, lives.
they're desperate. And like Teo said, they're desperate. Just to continue.
Yeah, go on.
Just to continue. Like I said, I still don't understand why I should give a shit about Ewell, because the game gives me no reason to. She has zero personality whatsoever. As for Noel, he's just generic shonen hero type character, and not even a particularly good one.
Like the one plus that I will give it to him is that compared to the experience that was the Party of 13, he's technically more likable from the start, and the only animosity that he has is the stupid arguments he gives to Snow.
Oh yeah, definitely. I just wish he himself will also have a more well fleshed out personality. But
Hey, isn't that what Lightning Returns is for?
not really. And Lightning Returns is just moping around. How I miss you. Oh, I miss you.
While becoming Batman for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get that. Speaking of which, how does Brando feel about Lightning Returns?
Let me explain real quick about the gameplay though, because as for the gameplay, okay, when it comes to the overall story of 13.2, Jova, he thinks the game has really good high highs, specifically with Kaya's, but it also has really low lows. So he thinks the writing is an overall a mixed bag, which okay, I guess that's a good enough compromise for me. As for gameplay wise, he also thinks it's kind of a mixed bag. So basically, it's an overall mixed bag to him.
Can get that. Like, part of me does feel like 13.2 was, well, there was certainly an attempt to be better than the first game.
As for Lightning Returns, he agrees that the game is bad, both gameplay-wise and story-wise. Well,
even Lightning Returns finally breaks.
That's the thing, Jova. Lightning Returns in general is a game that you'd be very hard-pressed to find people who genuinely defend that game.
Like Lightning Returns has the most niche fan base. Like, first, you gotta be a fan of the 13 franchise. Second, you gotta be a fan of, well, pretty much mistreating the rest of the cast. And third, even if you're a fan of the first two games, you might very much hate Lightning Returns just for how much that thing kind of screws around with the entire mythos.
Not even just that. So here's the new dungeon, the Burning Cave. Basically, the gimmick of this one is Steam. Go ahead, Chris.
Get it? It's hot here while it's cold
hot
outside.
here?
Yes, it is, Cook. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. What's going on? I haven't got a fever.
Maybe there's a hot spring nearby.
All right.
Basically, to recap what happened, they inspected the crash site, but there was no sign of the Kaim and Sarah, so we suspect they actually went to a nearby location.
So let's search for them here in the Burning Cave. Ouch! What the hell is this? It's so hot.
Jensen, don't worry.
Yes, go on.
It's a natural geyser. Boiling hot water shoots through the cracks in the air. Be careful you don't get burned, everyone.
Don't worry, Jensen. That isn't smoke. It's steam. I mean, we did have the Aurora Borealis before, so...
Yep, that is true.
Let's just hope Old Faithful doesn't...
So yeah, the gimmick is you can...
come across a principal or a superintendent in this game?
No, Dave, so because this is actually hot, we're actually gonna run into the party of Kaim and Sarah. We're hardly in the middle of stripping.
The gimmick with this one is pass when the geysers are not blowing steam off. Basically, that's the basic gimmick. There's also some slight platforming later on, and that's pretty much it.
I'm guessing that if you get hit by the geyser, basically it'll just chip some HP off.
Basically, yeah. That's usually what RPGs do with these kinds of gimmicks. So, no, but that's the thing. Remember, and here's the thing, Jova. Okay, to Lightning Returns' credit, that game, much like the original, has an even worse localization than the original 13, apparently. So bad to the point that people actually started a Lightning Returns retranslation project for the PC version, right? Unfortunately, it never went anywhere.
I'm curious, does the original translation salvage it?
No,
anyway?
Brando is a guy who knows Japanese. So he played the game with English subtitles and the Japanese audio, so he could compare what the characters say with the English script. So he knows this, and he even says in that review, it kind of sucks that they messed up the terms, but at the same time, this wouldn't exactly be Pulitzer Prize material if it was translated properly. It's still bad even in the Japanese script.
So it mainly just amounts to some terms were
the
point. For the most part, the story is still the same.
The story is still the same. It's just that it's hard to understand in the English version because in the English script writers completely fucked up the terms of how things work.
Okay, so we're fighting Bowser, I guess. Here.
Yes. That being said,
that game released in 2014 in the West, didn't it?
Yes. Very good. like I said, Joe, the basic gist of it is the game is bad either way. The story is bad either way. It's just worse in the Western version because of the terrible localization. But according to Brando, who knows Japanese, even the original Japanese script is not exactly great. So
Oh God, I wonder what he'd think of that similar, because there was a similar situation with that in Metroid Other M. I wonder if he's touched that.
No, he mostly handled RPGs.
No, that's the thing. There's somebody else who also did a big retrospective video of Other M, and he also touches that aspect. Yes, it is true that the localization was very mungled, but even if you go back to the Japanese version, it's still not great.
And now the what's his name? The guy who created Metroid,
Yoshimoto.
Yeah, he was involved with the English translation as well. So.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
To his credit, he turned everything around with Samus Returns and especially Metroid Dread.
Yeah, I'm curious. In the Japanese version of them, do we still talk about the baby?
Yes, but not as much. Apparently, for example, Samus's horribly boring monotone voice, that's an English language exclusive because she's far more lively in the Japanese version, and I have no idea why Yoshimoto thought this would be better for Western audiences.
Oh, look,
Yeah,
it's a character that in Japanese has a stoic type of, voice acting, but in the West it gets misinterpreted as to be bored.
In fact,
I've seen that before.
In fact, Joe, but that's another thing that Other M has in common with the 13 trilogy, because they did the same thing to Halle Hillis' voice direction, because if you listen to Maya Sakamoto's voice acting in the Japanese dub, she's far more pleasant to listen to in live, whereas Ali Hillis
it's wanting to be. She wants to be more stoic. Again, it's the same thing that happened with Cloud. What is actually supposed to be, more determined as a term. Sometimes potentially pissed off, gets to be interpreted as to be monotone for the sake of representing, an emotionless state.
The interesting thing, though, is that this was
Ali
apparently
Hillis
a decision made by the Japanese devs, who I guess figured this is how us overseas would want it.
So Ali got severely kneecapped then.
But yeah, she was. It's not her fault. It's much like with Georgia Van Kilburg as Vanille. She was directed to sound like that.
James, remind me, have you actually played Kid Icarus Uprising?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
You don't remember how Palutena sounds actually?
She's great.
She was kneecapped in Lightning Returns, whereas in Kid Icarus Uprising, she actually had a voice direction.
She's fantastic as Palutena. Yeah.
Again, if you want a more not over the top example, but it still works, there's the character she voiced for Mass Effect, the Doctress Liarazzoni, for example.
You know what? I'll go a step further. For as much as I did not like Lightning in the first 13 game, Lightning felt like she had more personality in that compared to Lightning Returns, essentially. Like, in the first 13 game, Lightning could get angry, she could be a bit spunky, she could snark a little one-liner or two. By Lightning Returns, she's just this dull, emotional.
Remember, Joba, it's literally a plot point when she doesn't have emotions.
Yeah.
Because God deemed so more efficient to strip her out of her emotion instead of, just her memories.
But as Brando also pointed out, like I've been pointing out for years in his review, that plot point has no need to be in the game. You can very easily remove that plot point from the game and nothing would be lost. So it's like the developers went out of their way to make the protagonist boring for no reason.
You know the funny thing? Them giving a reason implies that they knew people would call bullcrap on it. And in that case, I'm like, hey guys, maybe if you realize people are gonna call bullcrap on it, maybe you shouldn't do it at all. And I get it.
Sorry, the whole removing emotion thing, was that in the Japanese version too?
Yes, it was.
Yes. Again,
boy. So poor Ali Hillis and Maya Sakamoto were.
Yeah. That's interesting. Even in that game, Maya Sakamoto still sounds better despite the terrible direction. This is that part.
But despite her appearance and technically time placement being based on that, when it comes to the CDNT, Lightning is actually still properly having her emotions. so she actually works out for the better.
Yeah.
I really just chalk up Lightning Returns as the equivalent of the team just throwing up their hands and saying, "We don't know what we're doing anything anymore, but we gotta end this somehow." And
Also, having Toriyama coming to my country to say that we have a lot of graffiti, so we totally are like the actual game.
Like
I still can't believe that.
that happened.
Let me just ask something to Dwebs. Dwebs, maybe you know. Did Jack Fletcher do the voice direction for 7 Remake and Rebirth?
Yeah, he did mention when we commented on with children.
I'll
Okay.
have to double check that real quick.
Sure. But go ahead and check. Because
It's really been around for that long. Oh, that's hilarious.
Had
yes, Dwebs.
7 Remake had, according to by the voice actors, it had 5 voice directors: Colette Sunderman, Kathy Farley, Kirk Thornton, Michael Sorich, and Digimon regular Robert Buckholz.
So a whole collection of voice directors. Okay. In that case, it's better then, yeah, because I will argue Cody's delivery in both Rebirth and Remake as the story Cloud is much better executed in practice.
Okay, I think what a lot of people need to realize is that, yes, stoic can mean a lot of things. It doesn't mean you just sound dull, like you're too cool for
horse tranquilizers.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the basic point, Jova. You'll have to find the few people you can find that defend Lightning Returns are people who usually defend that the game was screwed over by the localization, but those people are very rare. But the people who even go that far are rare. Obviously Matt S from Digitally Downloaded talks about how Lightning Returns is the greatest thing since sliced bread because that's what he does. He's basically the Armand White of video games.
The Contrarian.
Yeah, the Contrarian, basically. But you know how it is. Obviously, you'll find your people who like it, but they're very, very few in between. Very few.
Oh yeah. Again, it's super duper niche because let's be honest, by that point in time, people, and again, from the research I've checked, and from the first account notes I've gotten from Alexa, Pedro, and Tio, people were checked out on the 13 franchise by the time of Lightning
Again, Joe, you have to remember also the timing. Like he said, those fateful
5 years.
5 to 7 years in total for Square. It was a nightmare if you were not a fan, of the third. Okay then.
That happened.
If you weren't not a fan of the 13 trilogy or you did not particularly care about Kingdom Hearts, because while there were other games like I suggested, for example, there was Nier or Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness, they were very few.
Final Fantasy 14.
I'm talking about other franchises, Jova.
Okay.
Those were few in between, and Square was trying to compensate with the Idols division, which for some stuff it was working, like the Tomb Raider reboot, but then you had stuff like Nosgoth, the MMO setting the Legacy of Kain universe, which was bad. And the less being said about Thief 2014, the better, trust me.
Oh, I remember. People did not like that.
Okay.
From what I can tell, in regards to their other ones, Hitman Absolution got a rather mixed reaction.
He did a bad marketing campaign, Waves, because he had one of the trailers shows up the non-group boss, so it attracted a lot of ire from the Catholic Church.
Stop me if you've heard this before. A Square Enix published game that makes it extremely linear.
But anyway, my point is, Jova, the context
That's what
is that,
Absolution was.
again, if we were starving for having, potentially a good single-player experience, the 13 trilogies was all that you were getting.
Basically.
Like I said, I was basically giving up on the publisher because of that. If it wasn't for the tournament that they started having in 2015, I will still be there.
Can I ask you a question too? Because one of the games that really kept me, that really helped me forget that time was the first 12. Do you think the first 12 would have helped you with that?
God, okay. I have to remember also the age that I was. In that case, probably 17 to 19, roughly.
Wasn't the first toy released in 2009? Anyway?
2008.
I thought it was 2008.
2008.
Remember, Jova, class 1991 for me.
The same year as this game, in fact.
Right.
But I don't know. Maybe not. I'll need to think about it.
Sure.
I can kind of get it because, look, as a toy fan myself, I'll admit toy was also its own band of niche, mind you, in a good way, mind you. But still, though, toy, I could see definitely helping someone get through it. I don't know if it would get them through all that dark age of Square, though, because oh boy.
You also have to remember. I can tell this. Back then, I was more attracted to either strict proper sci-fi and fantasy scenarios. So something like a urban fantasy probably wouldn't have caught my eye to begin with that much.
Sure, that's fair. Alright, cutscene.
We have reached our destination.
We're about to get a really long boss battle, so we'll have time to continue. There they are.
Look at
There they
that.
are.
They really were frozen today.
So there you go, Joe. But they didn't die; they just got frozen today.
They can't be dead. Can they?
They can't be! No!
Yeah, don't
Well, I'm glad they're frozen in there and we're out here.
I just can't hear it.
Why don't you put a fire next to them and melt them out?
Yeah, basically, the magic energy also kind of works as the force of this game, and Ming can feel it, so they're fine. We just need to
What
prepare
I
for
want to
this.
know is where is the caveman?
Also, come to think of it, these are the boiling caves. How the hell is there even ice still frozen here?
Hell metaphor, Jova. Probably this is a pair to the Cocytus.
Alright, boss battle. Okay, so first let me explain the gimmick of this boss. This boss is annoying. Why? Because it's immune to magic, all of it. By that I mean, it has reflect.
Oh, yeah. More good news. I didn't know a creature like that lived around here.
They're probably just a manifestation of whatever power is causing this awful cold.
I thought it was supposed to be hot down
Can we
here.
save Kaim
Yeah,
and
that's the
Sarah?
creature that's causing
If we
it.
beat the creatures?
It's cold.
Yeah.
No, if. We will defeat
Ah, I get it. So most of the caves are hot, but this part of it is cold because
Like
of
you
the
said,
creature.
Jova, also cute hell parallel metaphor because, you know, Dante's Divine Comedy is one of the most referenced things ever.
Yeah,
God.
like at the lowest circle he found not heat but cold.
But yeah, like I was saying, this guy, you don't bother using magic on this guy because he has reflect.
Gee, sort of a shame that most of our party members are sorcerers.
Fortunately, Jova, we have an alternative. Items. This game has items that cause insert damage here, as in like ground does bombs that cause a shit ton of ground element damage. The reflect only works on magic spells specifically. Items do not count for reflect, so you can use items. In fact, I'm about to demonstrate for the sake of you guys what happens if I do the magic. Why not? Let's start.
Alright,
So
let
you
me
can
let me
use
see the
items
details.
as weapons in this game. Well, you know, I mean, as in like consumable items, I presume.
Yes, consumable items. Kind of like the grenades in Final Fantasy VII, if that helps you.
I guess the idea is to stock up on those before this boss. Then it must suck to be a first-time player.
Yeah, but that's the basic gist of it.
Yeah, it seems that even GameFAQs is actually recommending this. I was actually wondering if they had another strategy, but no. Well, the closest that they mentioned is to try to buff the shit out of Mac, which is your physical attack.
Use Ming and Cook as the healers, basically, because Cook is a white mage, whereas Ming can use either magic depending on how, of course, what abilities you copied onto her, of course. As for Jensen, you can have Jensen also use items, why not? And of course, Mac being a physical fighter, he should also be one of the attackers. Yes, items are indeed the primary way to defeat this boss. Because while Mac is a good physical fighter, he's nowhere near as good as Seth or Kaim. Which means that it's a good idea to stock up on items before you get to this battle. This battle can be quite annoying because of how much it handicaps you.
Oh wow, it really does reflect it right back at you.
Yeah, basically. But no, what Theo was just saying is exactly correct, Joe. But like even Brando himself said in his Lightning Returns review, because unlike 13 and 13-2, he didn't play that game when it first came out. He only played it recently for the sake of his review, right? And he even said, yeah, it's like after playing through this, I can see why at the time people thought that Final Fantasy could never be good again. People were sick of Lightning, sick of 13, just sick of it. And yeah, that was really how me and Theo felt at the time, because we were so sick of 13 being shoved down our throats.
And like I said, there were the important stuff to remember is that yes, there were other stuff. It's not like Square Enix was not doing literally anything. Like if I recall correctly, at least 4 Years of Light was released also around the time.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think I can get it though. It's kind of like being a Sega or Sonic fan. Like, Final Fantasy, to my knowledge, is what was pretty much up front and center at Square. So,
and again, I did mention multiple times in the past, if there's something that I had not much of a patience of, or at least, or I can only understand it to only so far, is when a company or a studio basically tells to my face, I'm not their target audience anymore, I can just, stop caring.
You know,
yeah, like a certain game producer I could bring up that I talked about in the previous part.
Multiple actually. But yeah.
Well, yeah, but there's one in particular recently that really pissed me off. But go on, Yonuma, go ahead.
The real sad thing about the 13 trilogy is just like, to my knowledge, I'm not saying that a Final Fantasy game had never had sequels before. Oh, no. 4 already had some kind of sequel.
And 10.
7 got its own franchise.
10
as well.
10 technically was the first one to get one sequel.
Starting with the starting with the completion of Final 7, Square had the aggressive tactics of franchising each new entry into basically a set of contained world. With 10 it was at least 10-2, and also a slight bit of novels. With it was the Ivalice Alliance project, with 13 the Fabula Crystallis, with 15 the set of other mini side games, and movies and series, so and so on. 16 is really the only one where they did not actually started doing this.
Might only be a matter of time, but my point is like, out of the Final Fantasy franchises, it seemed like 13 was the first of them where Square got down to the nitty-gritty and said, here, you're getting not one, but multiple full-fledged sequels. Now, to be fair, I do know the real reason for this was them trying to recoup the losses of 13. Oh, shoot, max down.
But remember, Joe, but there's also the fact that, like I mentioned in our commentary 13.2, the only reason why I accept Lightning Returns, despite the ending that pisses me off to no end, when it comes to the duration of Final Fantasy, is because 13.2 literally ends with the villain telling you in your face that all your efforts were up for nothing, and we're still ending on a cliffhanger. So of course I want conclusion and closure on that.
Yeah. It's that kind of bit where as much as you hate something, you want to, at this point, just see it through to the end.
It's like what I said about NEC 2. Yes, the games have been mediocre at best and very tedious at worst, but I want to see the story concluding in some fashion.
Like, the sad thing about 13 is they could have ended with the first one, and
I'm wondering, too, does that also apply to the cliffhangers of the Kaim and Sarah series?
I mean, yes. I just mentioned when we finished Refrain Core. Not only I don't mind, potentially continuing from the cliffhanger of Refrain Core instead of one of Batman Dark Horse, but I wouldn't even mind if the multiverse theory that we theorize is actually correct. And all these timelines are converging into something.
It's like, I'm sorry, you can't have shadowy figures show up at the end and not expect us to, want to see what that's all about. Granted, I guess the Amazing Spider-Man duology still has Mr. Shadowy Trenchcoat and Top Hat, man.
We give it some time, Joe. I'm pretty sure the MCU will try to cannibalize even that.
But yeah, no. The thing that really just saddens me about the 13 trilogy is like, there were plenty of other Final Fantasy games that probably would have done better with full-fledged sequels to the length of what 13 was giving, but again, because they wanted to recoup losses, and to my understanding, some of them couldn't just stand to admit that 13 was a failure, they wasted 2 full-fledged titles on the 13 series, and somehow things arguably got worse with each one.
Also, don't forget, Jova, yes, you haven't seen it yet, but don't forget that the world, the physical, physical world of Type 0 in universe is supposed to be set in the same, galaxy system universe of one of the Panorama Crystallis, meaning that at the end of Blinding Returns it gets rebooted anyway. So all the efforts that you have done in that game too are pointless when you get down to it.
Yep.
13 was so poisonous that they had to essentially cancel Versus 13, which was supposed to take place literally inside of
Pulse,
I guess.
Remember,
Pulse.
again, it was supposed to be the big twist, but Pulse also acts as a Dyson Spear, and there's something inside.
And dare we mention OG-14?
Yeah, there's that too.
Oh.
Another thing that I'd like to bring up.
It's like 14 wasn't exactly helping things at the time.
While we're on the topic, I also like to bring up something about Brand. Unfortunately, doesn't do this, like I've said. But another problem I have with 13 apologists is how they have the same problem I've seen with BVS apologists, where they bring up the themes of the game, but they don't actually discuss how well or badly they're executed. They just say, oh, it's about a group of people defying destiny, and Lightning is a journey of redemption and shit. Okay, but can you talk about how well or badly executed they are? It's kind of like how in BVS they talk about, oh, but don't you see, BVS is about Batman realizing the humanity of Superman. Yes, I know, but is it well executed though? So I've seen a lot of 13 defense videos that bring up the themes of the game, but they don't actually go in depth about how they're implemented in the story.
Oh, I get that feeling. It's like, yes, it's cool that Lightning and Company defy fate, but they literally cannot come up with a clean explanation on how they suddenly came back from being C, other than, we believed in our friendship, and now we'll prove you wrong, even though killing you will supposedly kill us all.
It's kind of similar.
One frustrating thing for me is that when you get down to it, the bad guys in 13 technically kind of got what they wanted, i.e. the heroes killing them.
It's a very frustrating form of defense that I've seen so much in YouTube in recent years. Like plenty of the same thing with the Last of Us Part 2 defenders. Same thing. Like they always do the same thing with these pieces of media. They bring up what the themes are, but they don't explain how the themes are executed. In fact, if you ask me about the theme of personal growth of Twerry, I can immediately go into a long rant about how it's executed and how well it's executed. I can't do. I'm willing to bet these people can't do the same thing for Lightning's development in 13.1, because I have yet to see one that properly examines it on a deeper level.
Oh, cool. Neil Bahamut's dead.
Honestly, Joe, they look more like the Artless boss that you fight in Wonderland in Kingdom Hearts 1, the one with the paper
the trickster
thing. Yeah, just with the less of the... Okay, it does have a bit of lanky arms, but it's less made of paper and more metal. But it is the same structure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I have something more also interesting to bring up, but cutscene now.
Well, we're gonna have to do a lot of digging on that ice.
No, it just conveniently melts immediately. Don't worry.
Remember, because that monster was the source of the cold, killing it makes the cold go away. And makes the volcanic temperature come back to this section. So that they did explain how this works, to be fair.
No, let us do it, Emmy.
See?
It's symbolic
Oh yeah,
that way.
trust these two to do it.
Well, that's the point, Dwebs. They're trying to be thematic. See, they want to do it themselves because they want to thank Sarah and Kaim for saving them. So it's meant to be symbolic of their newfound familial bonds, basically.
You fools! You casted the self-destruct spell by mistake.
Like I said, it's like I've said about when it comes to this plot. The contrived circumstances of how the whole train thing with Cook and Mac was bad. Fortunately, the conclusion of it is good. The newfound familial bonds they have because they've saved each other. Oh, I love this one. I love this from Jensen.
Now here's the truth of the game.
Hold on.
The love between Jensen and Kaim. Wakey wake, rise and shine.
Sarah!
Okay. Thank you.
It's also a good thing that our glasses never shattered.
I also like how the element of these two kids being able to save two immortals. It's a nice concept of how useful they are to the party in general.
Thanks, Jensen.
Oh my god, he actually thanked Jensen.
We've got bigger problems.
That is true. Yeah.
Trying to act like he is not crying on the inside that his best friend finally thanked him.
And guess what?
Oh, don't tell me! The Nautilus just happens to show up here.
No, they actually explain how they knew, to be fair. They were going to explain, don't worry.
Hey, look at that! Now the party is back together again.
Exactly. I like how Sarah's putting herself in front of them. That's the nice touch. Kind of like how Luke always puts his arm in front of... Sorry, kind of how Herschel puts his arm in front of Luke in a lot of times in the late
That
games.
is a funny image. Luke protecting the professor.
Well, honestly, who knows? Maybe in the world of Steam we can have a subversion of that.
Against the dreadful cowboy ghost.
I mean, you say that as if it's a bad thing too. I mean, we have a cowboy ghost in the new Leighton game, and you're complaining about it.
No, more like I found in the news that it's an American ghost because he has a gun.
Yes.
Well, remember, apparently this new in-game will take place in America.
Oh yeah.
We've been tracking.
So in America, there's cow.
They've been tracking the energy output of Ming.
Yeah, there you go. So they did have a way to do it.
Yes, we have. Captain, you got a new ship. This is the Nautilus. It belongs to my son, Ced.
That's me.
Wow, the great pirate Ced in the flesh. It's great to meet you.
So the great pirate said is Seth's son.
You know, in hindsight, the names are so similar, I should have seen that coming.
The immortal doing the dirty work for Ura. That was a long
Yeah,
time ago.
we're no longer doing that.
And here we have Kaim's beloved wife, Sarah.
Pleased to meet you.
What a gentleman.
As a pirate ought to strive to be.
1,000-year-old Queen Ming.
It's an honor to meet you.
Please, go easy on me.
Yeah, I'm kind of an old man at this point, so...
In fact, back then, he hadn't even been born then. Wait a minute, Ming, did you get your memories back?
I also love that Seth didn't even acknowledge Jensen for a nice touch.
Welcome.
There.
Half of the Nautilus. I think you know this pretty boy here.
King Tolton, why are you here?
You got some explaining to do.
He's been used and betrayed by Gongora.
Hey, we should make a club
So
for that.
it is a
You've been used and betrayed by Gongora, but I've been used and betrayed by Gongora. Let's be friends.
Let's never make
something
that.
of
A daredevil, right, Mama?
Daredevil?
Yeah, a real macho man.
Damn, when Jensen's
Oh.
striking down on you.
I like this touch here as well.
What?
Remember, he's checking if Gongora is secretly spying through him, and he would have purple eyes if that was the case.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's okay.
seems like he's clean.
He's been abandoned by Gongora. Left for dead.
Well, think of us as one big happy family.
So now what?
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of disc 3.
But Pedro, don't. We might lose most of your progress.
Don't worry, Dwebs. I'm gonna save right. I'm gonna save right after. See,
And then you got a power outage.
the reason I didn't save Dwebs is because I want my save to be at the exact specific place I want it, just in case I have to restart this part. I'm gonna be allowed to save right away after the cutscenes anyway, so it's not like it matters.
God, that mattress must be hard as a brick.
I mean, it's rendered like a brick. Or a
Look.
slab of concrete.
Look, it's the best we could do with our engine, okay?
Basically, yeah.
I saw Mom in the Aurora.
Oh god, we're not going to do another let's go find out dead mother thing.
No,
again,
it's more
are
like
we?
in that moment they actually, again, since sometimes it's past, they actually talk about
No, no,
We've
no,
done
no.
this twice in the same game.
Don't worry, Liz. That was the last time. We're done with that.
Wait a second. You mean it wasn't a dream? Yeah. was there. So it was like a dream.
Or you being so close to death that you could see your mother.
But it wasn't a dream.
Possible interpretation,
She
yeah.
thanked us for coming, didn't she? Yeah. She said she had something to
Reminds
tell
me
us.
of the Batman Christmas Carol comic, which more or less theorizes that Scrooge was kind of
Having a heart
hallucinating
attack, yeah.
from being near death.
If we tell them what she said. Nah, I doubt that. They're not like that. Well, then let's tell them. Hey, wait, Mac. Let's just check and make sure we really saw her together. What? Oh, okay. Tell me what she said. Together, okay? 1, 2, thank you. And then she went on like she really wanted to tell us something. Yeah, she did. She said she loved us. She said she was glad we came. Yeah, she was glad.
The women singing represents Sarah's feelings of the situation.
I mean, okay, so
Now we can't
I won't
lose her
make
time.
one thing clear.
We broke when we were leaving Ura.
I don't. I do know the difference. I do know when something's is just repeating itself because it's lazy, and when it's not because it's lazy.
That's just...
It's just, well,
No, like I said,
repetition is not something I normally like very much.
don't worry, Dwebs. Like I've said, we're not gonna do that searching for the mother again. We're done with that.
Where are the kids?
Like I said, it's all uphill from here, basically.
It appears they've seen Mira.
I see.
Gongora might not be there when we return to Ura.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. What now?
When I was helping Sed, Gongora had boarded Grand Staff.
Shoot, is he just gonna abandon Ura and try to conquer some other place since Ura may be up
Like I
in
said,
flames?
Jova, Gongora has a plan and motivations. It's just that we haven't figured it out yet. It goes kind of beyond just world conquest.
Yeah, he had.
Oh.
I can't even make the joke of when Gongora suddenly died of a heart attack because he's
Where
immortal.
does that put us?
Oh well.
The land of the Eastern Tribe.
But yeah, let me guess, not just world domination, he wants to conquer the galaxy.
You'll see, don't worry, Jova.
We'll get there. We still have an entire disc to go through.
Can we find an underwater passage to an inland lake? That's a
I will
great
take
idea.
over all the Final Fantasies worlds.
Okay, that would actually be cool if it turns out one of the dimensions in this
You're still
Oh.
game's multiverse
So,
is that of Final
hey,
Fantasy.
hey, Teo, you know what this means, right? This means that Jack visits this dimension at some point.
Yeah!
Glorious hand-to-hand combat with
Da, da, da,
Gongora.
da, 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 da.
I mean, Jack essentially finds his paradise by
Oh,
being a target
hold on.
and punching the
Flashback.
face.
So, in fact, here's another another example of what you were asking. Go ahead. So this is when they first came into this world.
Must return. We can't stay here. We're not from this world. Yeah, that much I remember.
Interesting. So they were all having memory issues beforehand.
Two worlds.
You guys are no fun.
Actually, that's kind of how Gongora feels about the situation, actually.
Don't you feel the light?
Light is calling for us.
But I don't wanna.
Wait, the light calling to them. Are they actually angels from heaven?
No. The point is, the portal that they came from is calling to them because, again, they don't belong here. But
I
Gongora...
can argue it is a possible interpretation, but you have to take things on a more literal level.
Yeah, like, I mean, granted, my theory is, you know, with them referring to it as the light, an interesting theory would be, what if they were deceased souls, angels, but are given, I guess, perchance...
Oh, no, not
Oh,
that.
and by the way, Jova, you'll notice that even though they just, in this scene where they just came out from the other world, Gongora is wearing that outfit. So yeah, it becomes very plausible that this is Gongora's original outfit.
Magic energy will increase in this world. This place shall soon
We were talking about that earlier, you know. So. Again, it's never specified, but I think, you know, you can very easily pull one and one together regarding his outfit right now. And there you go. So that's what he did at the beginning of this whole 1,000 Years affair. since they wouldn't agree with him, he just, well, yeah.
Set your mind at rest. I won't kill you until then.
So what? He left them alive, basically going, "Look, you'll eventually see it, even if it takes a few millennia."
That old face.
Okay, how many cards is this villain carrying at this point? Jesus.
All of them. He's carrying the whole fucking deck of cards, Jova.
There is
Yeah.
one trope that he actually averts, but I have to wait until the end of the game to tell you.
Used our shock and
Cool.
distress to steal our memories.
Yeah.
Yes.
You see, Jova? Here's an analogy you'll like, Jova, because this is a saying we have here in my country. Since as a musician, you'll actually we're gonna get a tutorial now. So let's read the navigation tutorial now. While on the sea, the Nautilus controls work the same way as those of the slant nose, meaning I don't have to explain this again. It controls exactly like the previous boat we've had.
Let me guess. It also has underwater control.
Yes,
The underwater controls, meaning it's just like the submarine from Final Fantasy VII. Go down so you can search for shit, like treasures and stuff like that. Impossible.
no emerald weapon equivalent, go Jova, don't worry.
This really is just Final Fantasy and everything but name, isn't it?
Well, considering who made it, that's not really a surprise. What was I going into? Oh yeah,
You were talking
yeah. Basically, Jova. One thing I think there's a saying over here in my country regarding involving an analogy involving music that, as a musician, you probably will appreciate. Usually we use it for stupidity, but you can easily just replace stupidity with the word evil, and it will work just as well. If like there's if music was evilness, Gongora would be a saxophone, and then this would be someone who says it, and then I would counter that with, no, I think he would be the whole orchestra. So this is the same we have over here regarding things in terms of quantity, basically.
I do see one thing Tio does mention, though. As great a villain as Gongora is, it does feel like at times he could use a bit more presence in the plot, potentially.
He also lacks. He also has a distinct lack of, generals or lackeys that work for him. If you noticed, we have some separate minor villains like bisexual Yashi, but Gongora directly doesn't have named lieutenants because our part of our party used to work for him. So there is that. But again, you'll be able to see because we're not that far from the end of the game.
But yeah, might as well take this time to mention something. Okay, for the sake of reminder, because I brought this up during our playthrough of Advent Dark Force. As a fresh reminder, Tale, Matt S. from digitaldownloaded.net, he's the guy who said that the Fair Rise act itself is a clever metaphor for human relationships. So to give you an idea of what kind of moon logic this guy is operating with.
I showcase by refrain chord, I guess there is some merit to that.
I guess it's just that I will argue that the game doesn't really do anything interesting with it, honestly. But I love this one. You're like, Go on.
There's a difference between the executed badly and say that it doesn't exist altogether.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying it's not there. But I will argue that it is only because of refrain core that we can now better confirm that it is there. I will argue that Dark Force doesn't have any of that shit at all, to be honest with you.
Look at that. Refrain chord ain't completely pointless after all.
I guess. Anyway, don't worry. This dialogue here is not particularly... It's just
casual party banter. Go on.
It's not particularly Here's I like what he talks about regarding the narrative of Lightning Returns here. Lightning Returns is a big narrative risk. This is a game that isn't going to connect with everyone because the central nihilist theme is a ridiculously complex form of philosophy, and in fairness, the developers clearly struggle with the technical construction of their story at times. So
often complicated, more like maybe it's just pretentious.
You see, Joe, but the reason you don't understand the plot of Lightning Returns is because it's ridiculously complex, and you're just stupid. See?
No. Allow me to paraphrase the usual joke involving Twilight. I think I'm tormented, but I'm actually pretentious. That's how I feel about Lightning Returns. narrative.
But I have a better one. He also says it's also a narrative that provides a neat explanation. You're gonna hate this one too. It's also a narrative that provides a neat explanation for why Square Enix opted to give players control over a single character rather than a party. The themes demand that Lightning experience a solitary, lonely quest for what ultimately amounts to absolution and redemption, as it is a desperate quest, and a desperation has greater impact when it's tackled alone. What do you think of that too?
I mean, I can't believe, but I still enjoy better RPGs when they give me a party. Just saying.
Okay, if I'm being fair, I get it. Lightning Returns has a narrative where, yeah, it's not exactly everyone's high point. I can get people being a little moody, brooding, or heck, even downright depressed given what's going on in the narrative of that game. The problem is, well, the payoff really feels like it doesn't come until the last minute. Like, now, if I were in charge of Lightning Returns, God help me, what I would have done is have it be that as you help each party member, get back their mojo, they would then join you back up on the party, at least building up on the idea of togetherness and a fight together. The problem is, in how Lightning Returns actually goes, it's just, no, still just Lightning's fight. Oh, sure, yeah, everyone shows up at the end, and
it's basically building up the people that will help at the very end in a cutscene, but that's only that.
Which makes it feel, okay, maybe pure victory isn't the best word, but it feels like it was just, Lightning moped until suddenly, things magically became better. Because
it's also more of a case of, technically speaking, you have the goal in mind, but you can tackle in the way technically you might prefer, depending on the circumstances. It's just that, the payoff is potentially very shallow. But again, I can say this another time.
And before we finish, I was talking about earlier about people who defend games by bringing up the themes, but not actually exploring in their review how the game implements these, how well these themes are implemented in the story. Here's another example of how these guys talking about, Lightning Returns is about absolution and redemption and nihilism, but it doesn't actually explain how these themes are implemented and if they're well executed. He just says, it's about this, it's about that, it's about... I can talk about all night about how... I can talk about how After Earth is about the bond between a father and a son all day night. It doesn't change the fact that it's a shit movie, it's because it's just badly written. Like, yes, it's about father and son reconnecting and blah, 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 but it's badly written, so who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like, it's these... I really don't get these people who defend something by saying it's about X, Y, and Z, but they don't explain how X, Y, and Z are actually executed. They just say it's about this, and that's why it's brilliant.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.